Is Daybreak. Right now it's time for us to take a look at our first discussion of the day. Now, the United States chapter of the All Progressives Congress has urged the U.S. President Joe Biden to ignore a planned anti-Tinubu protest held across the country and in front of the White House on Monday. Now, the protest was staged by Nigerians living in the U.S. against the emergence of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the February 25th presidential election held in Nigeria. Now, according to the protesters, the election was marred by irregularities, which made the announcement of Tinubu as the winner by the Independent National Electoral Commission flawed and against the wishes of a majority of Nigerians. Now, the protesters also flooded the U.S. Capitol with Nigerian flags and placards expressing their grievances and calling for U.S. intervention against the election. Now, but in a letter to Biden, the APC U.S. Chairman Tai Balofin urged the U.S. President to ignore the protesters as they did not represent the true feelings of Nigerians. Now, we have with us in the studio a member of the APC, Mr. Danjuma Mohammed, who joins us in the studio to actually analyze these issues. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so we actually talked about this in the morning about how we run to the US or we run abroad to start washing our dirty linen, as Stella put it aptly. I mean, these protests that were held in the US, what exactly do they expect the United States government to do concerning the agitations that they have?
Yes, I think knowing fully well, what really transpired before and during the election, I think what the protesters are simply doing is to further confirm the fact that, the elite, the political elite, actually brought in a lot of ethnic sentiment into the, electioneering campaign and processes. Otherwise, what is the ratio of the entire Nigerians in diaspora compared to the number of Nigerians that voted at home? And of course, we do not have a law yet that allows people to vote from abroad. I think that will still come as we move on, developmentally. But right now, they did not participate directly in the electioneering process. And we've been saying this, that the dimension of the campaign was dangerous. You can see the post-election activities, or rather aftermath of the election, is now giving vent to what our fears were. The issue of having lot of reference to ethnicity, religion, this is where it will certainly lead us to. They did not, particularly talking about the LP and the LP candidate now, Peter Obi, they did little in preparing to win this election, but they did so much in ensuring that they acquire enough capacity to dispute election results, not through the due process, but through political mischief. And that is what is playing out. Otherwise, what can Joe Biden do about an election that was held in Nigeria? I mean, Nigeria is a sovereign state. It's a sovereign state. All they want to do is simply to disrupt the goodwill that is likely to come between the Nigeria and U.S. bilateral relationship under President-elect Bola Tinubu.
All right, Mr. Danjuma, it's less than 60 days to the inauguration, and now we're having this protest here and there. And only about 2 weeks ago, last week, the DSS confirmed that there were plots to install an interim government. Before then, it was in the realm of rumor and all of that. What is the thinking within your party? Is the party worried?
Yes, the party is worried to the extent that, only to the extent that, you see, political elites that ought to know better are displaying irresponsibility, moral irresponsibility, and constitutional criminality by calling for the ING. Yes, after that, we are not worried, other than the fact that we are in government and we are being assured by the security arms that all is well. But ideally, we are worried that the political elites or the political class ought to have been more matured than it is. And like I said, all this stems from the fact that the Labour Party actually brought in too much of sentiment into the electioneering campaigns, and from the turnout of events, you see, when you bring ethnic and religious sentiments into elections, what you get is that by the time it doesn't go your way, you see, it's either your ethnic ego is bruised or your religious ego is bruised. So you begin to react, and
yes,
that is
yes,
what we're
Mr. Danjuma, it's Nigeria's democracy has been on for over 20 years now, since 1999, and we haven't heard of interim government anywhere. Doesn't it bother you that shortly after your candidate won this election, we started hearing things like that, efforts to truncate this democracy? Doesn't it bother you?
No, it doesn't really, because what makes a difference is that we've never had a character like Peter Obi contesting election between 1999 and date. Because between 1999 till date, what we've always had has been people who come with a lot of experience from their antecedents and wanting to sell themselves in different political parties. But we've never had a situation whereby, somebody comes in and feels that, look, since I do not have much about myself to present, the best is to go to the national fault lines, deepen the differences, exploit all sentiments, and that is just it. Otherwise, when you look at the entire setting, the only new thing here is that you have Peter Obi and the LP. LP has always been there. LP remains LP. It remains a national political party. But when you bring Peter Obi into LP and looking at the strategy with which they used in garnering whatever solidarity around the country, you discover that what they did was simply to study the national fault lines and exploit the differences in the country, religiously and ethnic-wise. And that is why it is the way it is. But the good thing there is that like talking about the United States now, they are well informed about this. They know Nigeria, they know our antecedents. They know. Ordinarily, Nigeria ought to have been running, a parliamentary system as we speak, between 1960 and now. 1960 and exactly, well, it was intercepted in 1966, an unnecessary military coup, and which equally stemmed from the fact that an ethnic group or some ethnic groups want to, get power by the use of force. So it's been like that. But one thing I know very sure is that this is 21st century democracy. The forces of democracy within and outside Nigeria will certainly ensure that these shenanigans do not succeed.
All right. So just to put another spin on on Stella's question, when you go to when you read some certain pages on social media and you read the news coming in from certain quarters, there are lots of chest beating and all that coming from the opposition. And if you look at that, as far as they're concerned, the APC is actually quaking in their boots at the moment. Is that the situation? What is the feeling within the party concerning all these challenges that are coming in, both from the courts or within and outside the protests and everything? What is the feeling within the party?
Yes, the feeling of the party is that is a ranting of bad losers. This is the truth. We are very, very much comfortable with ours. In fact, the president-elect is right at this moment at the peak of the formation of his government. He is not distracted. The party is not distracted. You see, one thing with the social media, and which has done a lot of damage to the psyche of the Nigerian youth, is that you have so many people exercising authority without responsibility. Everybody suddenly becomes journalist. You sit down within the confine of your room and then maybe fake a news and then throw it out there. And simply because it is in tandem with some other people's desire, they carry it and share it around. And that becomes almost a norm. It's unfortunate. But having said that, we do know that what you see on the social media does not realistically, a kind of manifest, in the Nigerian society. If ordinarily you look at the social media 3 months before election, of course you will say Obi has won, because we had a barrage of about the opinion polls coming from different places, giving it to be every opinion polls, giving it to be. At the end of the day, the first exercise, which was the submission of the list of party agents, to INEC for accreditation, Obi or Labour Party submitted just 47 out of 177,000.
No, I think they had a deficit of 47,000. They submitted 120 something. They had a deficit of 447,000. Yeah.
47,000,
yes.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that it was the third least prepared of the three major political parties that contested. So putting that aside also, you look at the fact that all through the campaigns, you see, they had little to tell the nation about who Obi is and what he intends to do. But they have so much to discuss or so much energy to dissipate on the character of the APC
Mr. Danjuma, there's this interesting angle that I'd like you to speak to.
Please.
Usually, what I've noticed in the past is that the person who wins, the party that wins, contends with the party that came second. In this instance, your party is contending with the party that came third. Because I do know the PDP came second.
Exactly.
Why is that so?
Yes, because the personality and the political experience of the person who came second, you know, is telling on the whole thing. I mean, the fellow who came third in the election, like I said, happens to be the most inexperienced of the contenders and the most, I would say almost unruly. Let me use that language, because you cannot be in court and still protest at the same time. I mean, it's not a norm in a democracy, because the protest could be hijacked, and before you know it will lead to a breakdown of law and order. I mean, Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president, will not descend that low, certainly. So what he has done is simple. He has gone to court, so he's waiting for the court. It's the legal process and procedure for addressing or disputing election results. Waiting for the court to arrive at its own conclusion before he now brings out his own political opinion. But the other fellow that is talking of Obi is highly inexperienced and highly unruly. In fact, has little regard for the democratic process.
He was governor for 8 years.
Exactly,
governor.
He was governor for 8 years, exactly. But the space he governed was just, that is a fraction, of the nation. He has never been in national politics at this level.
But some would argue that Asiwaju was also governor for 8 years.
Yes, Asiwaju has been involved in national politics right from the military era. He was a senator. Don't forget about this. He was a senator as of 1993. He was a prime mover and strategist, political strategist of late General Shehu Yaradua. And he's been involved after Shehu Yaradua. He created a political party, sponsored Atiku Abubakar, sponsored Ribadu. It's just that it's the first time he is contesting personally for the presidency. But he's been a political homeboy as far as the entire Nigerian terrain is concerned.
All right. So earlier you spoke about the frame of mind of the president-elect at this moment, and this is something that we would really like to touch on. I asked about the party, with the feeling within the party. Now, let's get a sense of where's the head of the president-elect right now. Where is he thinking of? Okay, how the governance process is going to take place? Is he thinking about the people that he's going to bring in, or is he concentrating on how to be able to win these the court cases that are actually pending? Is he distracted in any way by all this?
Very good, thank you. I did say earlier on that the party isn't distracted, and the president-elect is the least distracted in all this. In fact, he's like I said, his concern is how to hit the ground running immediately after he's sworn in. We do know that even in the papers before the court, I don't want to preempt the court judgment. There are some judgments that actually came out. Nwajoba, one of the contestants one of the aspirants in APC actually
that didn't actually show up for the primary.
Exactly, but he was in court, and that case went down to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court dismissed it. And right in that case, there are so many, has a lot of similarity with what is in court already. So we do know that the contenders, those who are contesting, the election results, really, yes, they are in court. We are in court with them, but we are not afraid, because we do know that we have better evidence than they do. So the president-elect really is concentrating on the formation of his cabinet, how to ensure that he forms a cabinet that will instantly unify and reconcile all political differences.
Yeah, talking about unifying all political differences, the president-elect said that his cabinet will not be that of his would not be national unity, but that of national competence.
Yes.
But with all this protests and all of this going on, do you think he's going to have a rethink and say, okay, let me bring people from all the parties just so to calm frame
yes, I know,
yes.
What the president-elect is simply saying is that he cannot be blackmailed by the ranting of bad losers. I mean, the fact that like I said, they only prepared. People contest election for several reasons. There are people who contested because they want to win. If I look at it very, 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 very critically, there are two candidates that really had in mind, had Aso Villa in mind, and that was the president-elect and the former vice president, as far as I'm concerned. The others were just there to kind of make some political statement. And like I said, the LP candidate and the LP itself, they were only there to get a kind of, that is a political recognition that will give them the capacity to unleash such mischief on this nation. That is just it. Because before the election, it was very clear that demographically and technically, there is no way, I mean, Obi could defeat APC and the PDP. I mean, there's just no way. We saw all this very clearly and glaringly, and they knew too. And that was the reason why they so much concentrated on issuing, or rather unleashing barrage of opinion polls favorable to LP, and also concentrated on personality endorsement. I mean, look at forgetting a former president, a man who, among all Nigerians, a man who was most favored by God to even preside over the affairs of this country, coming midway to encourage a sitting president to annul an election. I mean, this is a big, for me, is worse than calling for a kind of what do you call ING at this point. Exactly, because General Obasanjo, President Obasanjo, he is an institution. He's somebody we are supposed to look forward to learn from. And coming midway, even before the electoral umpire, announce or declare the winner of the election result, you are asking the president to intervene and stop it. It's just practically an annulment. So these are just the ground to create all these issues, but we are not distracted. To come to your question, the president-elect is not distracted. He is out for competence. When I said unifying, the forces, the truth of the matter is that after every election, not only in Nigeria, all over the world, in democracy, after every election, there is bound to be division. Division mostly along ideological lines, along political lines, and unfortunately, in our own case, relative to our development, along ethnic and religious lines. So naturally, it is incumbent on the winner to ensure that you bring about a strategy that will kind of unify all these differences, because you need stability. And without the stability in polity, your policy will not work well. That is it.
All right, so let me just jump through this window that you opened right now. You talked about the divisions that we have after every election. Usually it's between along ideological lines, because the political parties have different ideologies. And then you mentioned our own peculiar case, whereby our divisions run deeper when you talk about ethnicity, when you talk about religion. I think these are deeper lines than ideological. And these are the problems we are facing now. And that is one of the major challenges, or should I say the first challenge the president-elect will face. Are you now ready for this?
Yes, we are fully ready for this, because we know what has led to this. Because the only mantra, when it comes to particularly the religion, the mantra is that, Nigeria is going to be Islamized. That is
Islamized.
Because they are not very consistent in the use of this word. So the first thing you do, and the first thing the president-elect will do, is simply to show Nigerians that was an impossibility. Constitutionally, every religion is protected in Nigeria. That is one. Secondly, even Islamically, as a Muslim, I can tell you that it's not easy for Islam in Nigeria to Islamize Nigeria by the use of force. And thirdly, you see, let's look at this. Look at the peculiar nature of the family of the president-elect. I mean, if a man a husband, a Muslim husband of a Christian pastor, can manage his matrimony despite the differences in terms of belief and faith for a period of almost or even over 40 years and still counting, and they are still moving in peace. For God's sake, how do you fear that such a person will find it difficult to relate with Christians in any part of this world? I mean, for me, it's just Allah's own way, a divine way of showing Nigerians, look, these two religions can coexist as it is in the holy books, peacefully, developmentally, and forever in this country, so that we can have a lasting peace. Christians have nothing to fear. That is from the president-elect, because right in his own household, he has ensured religious harmony, coexistence between these two
Mr.
religions.
Danjuma, aside the religion,
Yes.
all these protests and talks and statements and all of that, to what extent will it impact the performance of your government, of the president, when he comes on board on May 29? Because there are some persons that say, oh, because there's so much against his emergence and all of that, that's going to propel him to do a lot of work and to make Nigerians, to convince Nigerians that he's the man for the job. And there are some persons that say, because of all of this talks, people not giving him a chance, that would make him say, oh, anyway, a certain group of people did not even give me a chance. So which way is it going to be?
Well, certainly, is going to be undistracted with or without their pressure, their mischievous pressure. The president-elect is a go-getter. He will do exactly what his concern is, how to implement his 80 pages of manifesto to ensure that in the next 4 years, at least he will come with his scorecard and tell Nigerians, look at my social contract, and this is how far I've gone. And all he wants is a pass mark. So that is in the heart, in the center of his heart. And the manifesto did not speak, exclusively to Muslims or Christians. It speaks to all Nigerians. It's encompassing. We're talking about the youth. I think I was here last time. I talked about the youth. Talk about the student loan. Talk about the plans in that manifesto, or to activate Nigeria's digital economy. It's because Nigerian youths are cyber inclined. Exactly. So he is certainly going to perform, and his performance, more than any other thing, his performance and his goodwill, and the fact that he's going to show neutrality in terms of and balance in terms of how to treat all the ethnic groups in this country and all the religions, not just Christians. Nigeria, I've said it repeatedly, Nigeria does not belong to Muslims and Christians alone. There are a lot of other religions in Nigeria. There are artists in Nigeria. And they must be respected. They have a place, they have equal stake in the nation, and we have equal right within the constitution. So he, the president-elect, is certainly going to perform, and his performance will go a long way, to exposing, the hypocrisy of these political shenanigans.
All right. Well, with the performance of the president-elect is something that we actually look forward to. Well, we're still talking, and it's still Daybreak right here on Trust TV, and we're talking to Danjuma Mohammed, an insider when it comes to the APC and, of course, the workings of that party. So we're actually examining the calls for the interim national government, the issues, the protests here and there, and, of course, the challenges awaiting the president-elect, and we're looking towards that. Of course, we'll explore more when it comes to the agenda of the next administration coming in right here on the show. We'll take a short break, and when we return, the show continues. Just stay with us.
That's great.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. You're still tuned to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Before we went on break, we were talking to Honorable Danjuma Mohammed, and he's still here with us. It's an integral part of the APC, and he's been giving perspective to some of the issues going on ahead the inauguration slated for May 29, 2023. So, Mr. Danjuma, you were talking about some of the issues that have been going on, and then I wanted to ask you, there's a new law now that says that every president must have his nominees within 2 months upon swearing in. He must have the name sent to the National Assembly. And in one of the papers today, I saw some names being bandied around as some of these potential nominees. Is that something that you're aware of? And has the president-elect started putting together his team?
Yes, the last time I was here, I told you, and I still remain on that the president-elect is so experienced and so immersed into Nigeria's political system that at any point in time, even in his sleep, can be woken up to bring his list, and he will make it, right there. So he has his idea of those who are to work with him, and he's there putting these ideas together, and he will submit it in record time to the National Assembly. Because I want to believe that if the law will even come back and say submit 2 or 3 days before swearing in, I mean, Mr. President-elect will submit 10 days before swearing in. He's bomb ready. I mean, to use that American metaphor. But the names that you see on this, yes, some may make it, some may not, but these are not authoritative. We still have to wait for the president-elect. He has his list, and he has his men, and he has his mind.
Talking about putting names together and all of that,
yes.
What is the exact position of the APC on the leadership of the National Assembly, especially the Senate? I saw today that there's going to be a meeting today on the leadership. What is the thinking of the party? Where is it heading towards on this issue?
Yes, the party is united as far as that is concerned. In fact, the president-elect, before he left the country, made sure he did 1 or 2 consultations, even with all the senators and House members-elect, to ensure that a repetition of the Saraki Gate does not does not manifest this time around. So the truth of the matter is that, yes, naturally you find people here wanting to contest here and there, but the party is fully involved and working along with receiving the advice from the president-elect also and his own team to ensure that at least all party principals that are talking about the National Assembly chairman, who is the Senate president, and the Speaker House of Reps, all do emerge from the party and within the party caucus decisions, not the other way like it was being done Saraki, Ekweremadu, and yes, exactly.
All right,
that difference is, we do not have that differences. So the truth of the matter is that this time around, the party is united, solidly united. And I want to believe that by the time the party comes out with its final decision on the zoning, every officer will key in.
Because that was a question that I was going to ask. I mean, because when you start talking about things internally when it comes to parties now in Nigeria, one of the major things is the zoning issue.
Yes.
So has the party settled on a particular zone when it comes to the leadership of the respective houses?
No, it has not been officially made known.
Okay.
Yes, that will come from the mouthpiece of the National Working Committee.
Unofficial.
Certainly, there are all political horse trading and all that. But certainly, party decision will be made known by the mouthpiece of the National Working Committee.
Well, Mr. Danjuma, as you know, from the primaries, there were people that were aggrieved.
Yes.
Those ones are on one side.
Yes.
Some of them, their grievances have not been tackled. And then from this, if not managed properly, there will be some aggrieved persons. Now, your party itself, how well positioned is it to tackle these grievances, considering that a crisis is brewing within your party? About a few days ago, I saw the vice chairman of the party telling the party, the chairman, to account for monies that were accrued from the sale of forms. And, I know there are
yes, even that has to do with a lot of external interference. Internally, we do not have that. You see, you have to give it to the APC. We're talking about intra-party crisis. This current leadership and the current leadership and the president-elect have a lot of understanding in working together. Unlike what transpired in the past, we have members that are really committed to the unity of the party and the unity of the nation now in place than what we had in the past. We had a lot of rumor about disintegration before party national convention, which eventually it kind of threw up the National Working Committee.
Mr. Danjuma, not to cut you short, but right on this show yesterday, a senator from Taraba State also accused the party of the same thing. He said the party was not really carrying members along and wasn't providing the support that members needed.
No, he has his opinion. You see, that is one thing. You see, in the running of political parties, there are a lot of intrigues, there are intricacies. But also, yes, he can, but what matters is not the individual opinion of a party member, but the opinion of his own caucus, where he is coming from. He is from Taraba State. What is the opinion of those in charge of the party in Taraba State? That's what matters. Because when you are talking about zoning, an individual cannot make decisions. Even if you are an individual senator, no, your state and your zone. That's what matters now. You are bound by your state decision on zoning, you are bound by your zone's decision on zoning, and the national. So that is, but as far as that is concerned, we do not have, you can't find a zonal chairman right now breaking out of the fold, addressing the press differently that no, I do not agree to the zoning arrangement or to what is about to emerge. No. We have that sense of unity. That was exactly the sense of unity that produced the National Working Committee and the national chairman himself at a time when people thought it was going to be the end of APC. The same understanding, led to a very peaceful primaries, and the fact that nobody except Nwajuba, who went to court, and he was not even part of the primary eventually, even though he bought forms from that. But we do know, the antics of such shenanigans. Except him, every other person who contested that primary election was in line with the result of that election, and we went into the party united. I mean, that is why I said whether one likes it or not, we give it to APC, because we still went to the general election as a united political party, even though we had issues. You can see what happened.
Are you going into the inauguration as a united party?
Certainly.
The inauguration as well?
In fact, we are even more formidable on ground than that. But like I said, don't mind the fact that these other people who are saying all sorts of things, they have the right to their opinion. They even say they have right to say they will not leave to see May 29. By God's grace, we will all live to see May 29. And May 29 will come and go.
All right. Now, before the inauguration, and quickly before we go, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. There were certain elections, state governorship elections that were inconclusive. And we're going to have a rerun in the next in a few days. How prepared is your party for that?
Our party is fully prepared, fully prepared on that. And
how confident are you?
We are very confident we're going to win. We are very confident we're going to win. Okay. And by the very grace of God, there is no problem as far as that state is concerned. I believe you're talking about is it Adamawa State?
There's also Kebbi State.
And there's Kebbi as well.
And Kebbi State, exactly. Well. No, we are very much on ground. You know, we are very much on ground because we hope and pray that our effort will lead to at least giving the women folk, you know, the first governor, the first elected governor in Africa.
All right. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how things unfold. And of course, definitely we will keep in touch to find out exactly what's going on internally within the party, and of course what to expect from the president-elect. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. As always, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we've been speaking to Anju Mohammed, an insider when it comes to all things APC, and of course, he's been giving us insights as to where the party is right now, where it's headed, giving us a little bit of an insight into the headspace of the president-elect, and of course what to expect from the APC in general. And that is how we're going to wrap it up today on Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, it's been a blast, and while we had a very amazing time being here bringing you the show today, so why don't we do it all again tomorrow? I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
I hope you've enjoyed this show just as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Thank you for letting us into your homes. My name is Stella Iyaji, and join us same time, same station tomorrow. For now, have a very pleasant day.